Years, thousands of chemicals have been introduced into our society. 80,000 chemicals are on the market in the United States. They're in everything from curtains, upholstery, and furniture to the makeup or shaving cream you used this morning. Your electronics, cleaners, the very materials used to build your home. 42 billion pounds of chemicals enter American commerce every day. That amount would fill up 623,000 tanker trucks. Over the last half-century, chemical use in America has gone up more than 2,000%. Chemicals surround us. They're inside of us. Most of these chemicals are not tested for their safety because industry in America does not have to prove a chemical is safe before it gets onto the market. Instead, like a defendant in an American courtroom, the chemical is innocent until proven guilty.
The biggest concern that I have is our astounding ignorance, really, about the effects of most of the chemicals that are in commerce. We don't even know what's in our furniture, what's in our cleaning supplies, what's in our shampoos, our body washes, our lotions, our makeup. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention to what the hell is going on.
We're doing things to our physiology that on an individual level don't seem that profound. When you take it and multiply it over millions of people, over 100 years, you're talking about entire populations that have had, their life chances totally limited.
The Environmental Protection Agency is in charge of monitoring the chemical industry in the U.S. as laid out by the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976. When TSCA came into law, there were already 62,000 chemicals on the market, which were grandfathered in, assumed safe because they were already in use. It's almost impossible for the EPA to gather enough data to remove any of these chemicals from the market because of this toothless law.
There's not a requirement that existing chemicals demonstrate safety. The procedural hurdles, once we judge there to be a risk, are very high. So taking action once you know that there is a risk is incredibly difficult. As a matter of fact, the one time we tried it, we actually lost in court.
The questions don't stop there. What are the causes of the increased rates of childhood brain cancer, asthma, leukemia in children, early onset puberty, ADHD, genital deformities in baby boys, and life-threatening birth defects? All are on the rise since the dawn of the modern chemical revolution.
Of the over 80,000 chemicals circulating in commerce today, of high concern is a family of commonly used chemicals called phthalates. Found in everything, from fragrances to cosmetics, pesticides to plastics, cleaning supplies and clothing. Phthalates are also members of a longer list of man-made molecules called endocrine-disrupting chemicals, or EDCs. Our endocrine system controls mood, growth, metabolism, sexual development, and reproduction. It relies on hormones for normal function.
There is a class of chemicals called endocrine disruptors that actually mimic natural components of our systems, hormones in particular. And these chemicals can interfere with the function of those hormones by binding to the same sites in cells where these hormones normally bind and creating havoc if the exposure to those chemicals is happening in a way that interferes with the normal processes.
Endocrine disruptors are synthetic chemicals that sneak into our bodies through the nose, mouth, and skin and trick our endocrine system into mistaking them for real hormones.
When you have a synthetic chemical that is a mimic for a hormone or does something directly to disrupt the activity of one of those signaling naturally occurring chemicals, you have a disruption, and that has downstream consequences. The intestines go ahead and take more calories. The pancreas secretes more insulin, and the ovaries and testicles that secrete our sex hormones are sensitive to disruption by these chemical signals that are mimics for the naturally.
Scent is way more powerful than people in our society understand as a signal to us as consumers, and we are often manipulated by those signals. The reason most cleaning and personal care products don't list all of the details of what's in any of these products is because they don't want you to know what's in there.
We've all probably turned the bottle over and read the label, but one big loophole in that labeling law is fragrance. They don't have to list their ingredients. So whether you're holding a perfume, a cologne, shampoo, shaving cream, whatever the product is, normally the fragrance components aren't disclosed. And that can be a mixture of even hundreds of different chemicals hidden in that one ingredient.
They're scared of consumers learning that they're purchasing a product that has a toxic or carcinogenic ingredient. They're trying to avoid the consumer backlash that would come if they were transparent. So it could be that that fresh smelling scent is making us sick. Business is writing the rules. Government isn't really writing the rules. It's the businesses, the trade associations, the lobbyists that write these rules. And they're not written with us in mind. They're written through one lens. What do we want to do that increases the profitability of our industry and our businesses?
When we buy products, a portion of our money fuels a corrupt system, starting at the retailer, to the manufacturer, and into the pockets of trade associations. Trade associations use our money to ghostwrite legislation and hire lobbyists to bring money and industry-friendly bills to Congress that will deny consumers of our right to know what's in the products we buy. And guess who's paying for it? Today, fragrance is a $100 billion industry and still growing. Whether a scent is promoted as a product feature or sold as a fine perfume, the truth is, most fragrance ingredients don't come from flower fields in France. They come from chemical factories in New Jersey.
The perfume industry has been trying to maintain a mystique because fragrances have always had a certain allure of mystery and romance and creativity about it. And by transforming it into a chemical company with ingredient disclosure, that mystique is gone.
The fragrance industry expressly said that They don't want consumers to know that the ingredients that are in Chanel No. 5 are some of the same ingredients that are used in their toilet bowl cleaner. They don't think the consumer is sophisticated enough to be able to make that distinction. There's a lot that goes into making a fragrance, and we get that. We're not asking for that. We're asking for what chemicals are used in our personal care products, what chemicals are used in our cleaning products, so that we can make educated decisions.
But trade secrets aren't limited to perfumes, pajamas, and personal care products. Many industries say their ingredients are a trade secret in order to avoid disclosing that their product contains toxic chemicals.
If you have an ingredient or a chemical in your product that a consumer can Google and find out that it is toxic or carcinogenic, well, you don't want to have to tell people that that chemical is in there.
What's troubling is where these secret chemicals are ending up.
According to an independent lab hired by the Environmental Working Group, my blood contains 175 chemicals linked to cancer, 210 chemicals linked to heart disease, and 196 chemicals linked to birth defects. But the most disturbing results of this study revealed all 10 infants tested had almost as many chemicals in their blood as the adults.
We tested umbilical cord blood from 10 babies born in the U.S. We tested for more than 300 chemicals. We found 287 chemicals altogether. Everything from consumer product ingredients like Teflon and Scotchgard to flame retardants and fragrances to waste that comes from burning gasoline and garbage. The chemicals that are in the environment that are in our everyday products end up in our body. These chemicals get into the mother's body, slip across the placenta, and contaminate babies even before the moment of birth. And the fact is, each one of us, each of our children is born pre-polluted with hundreds of different chemicals from our everyday lives, from our everyday products.
Exist in mixtures, and it is next to impossible to figure out how 2 chemicals or 3 chemicals in that mix are working together in concert to create some type of chemical chaos.
The rise in autism, the rise in breast cancer, the rise in reproductive problems, the rise in certain childhood cancers, the increase of diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, all have to be due to environmental factors. And if you map the increase of those diseases against the increased use and exposure to toxic chemicals, there's a pretty good match there.